This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
The Revolution with Juan McCartney is sponsored by J.S. Johnson, Burger King, Commonwealth Bank, Boost Academy, Awak X, Ron's Electric Motors, and Marco's Pizza.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the Revolution here on 96.9 Guardian Radio. I am not Juan McCartney. This is Kahun Ankusara. I am the head pastor of the Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah. I greet you all by saying Namastu, which means the divinity within me bows to the divinity within you. Today, we're going to be talking about the pandemic. We're going to be talking about this reality of getting back to normal. You know, we all obviously want things to be as normal as possible, but what does that really mean? And how will us being our normal selves help the situation? You know, if we all want to, these are some of the notes I had that I want to share. So we're going to set the table right now. If all we want to do is get back to normal, we are the problem. If all we want to do is get back to normal, we are the problem. We also can talk about some biodiversity today because we need to know what that means. And we can talk a little bit about vaccine hesitancy and natural immunity, et cetera, et cetera. I do have a guest coming on in a bit, and we're going to introduce him as we get closer to his segment, which is in about literally 10 minutes or so, right? Give me a second to set the table before we take any calls. Of course, the phone lines, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. And, of course, the text is 422-4796. All right. Like I said, just give us a minute to set the table, and then we'll take some calls because I really want to get feedback from those of you who do care. All right, and there's a lot going on today, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well as we move through the show. But pandemics, in the midst of a pandemic. But what is a pandemic? All right, etymologically speaking, going to the root of the word, it says that it is an incident to a whole people or a region. So something that's happening to people all over the world, in this instance, pertaining to all people. Public, common, from the word pan, which means all, and demos, which means people. All right, model on epidemic, and it talks about it as a noun, a pandemic disease. All right, goes back to 1853. This is important because before we start talking about something, we should know what we're talking about. So we know COVID-19 officially became a pandemic in 2020, WHO. And my question is, you know, why or was and continues to be, why are pandemics happening? Why do they happen? Because if all we want to do is go back to normal, normal is what got us here. Normal is what put us in a pandemic. All right? So why do pandemics happen? And I'm going to throw this on the table before we bring in our guests. Dr. Ancelino Davis, who is an expert in biodiversity and ultimately matters of nature. We're not in harmony with nature, right? And this may not be something that is on people's radars, but we got to talk about it, because if we're not aware of it, we're going to keep repeating the same situation that we're in today. So this biodiversity, all right, is very important, because as we lose biodiversity, and this is what we're going to ask Dr. Davis about, right? As we lose biodiversity, we ultimately put ourselves in a position for further pandemics, all right? Some information I pulled, the effects of biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss has many consequences, not only for the environment, but also for human beings as the economic and health level. So these are the two things we're very concerned about right now in our country: our economy and our health, all tied to biodiversity. During the presentation of, this is a report from the IPBES, and I'll get that acronym to you as the show goes on. Gentleman David Cooper, the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity, took the opportunity to warn about this in the midst of a COVID-19 crisis. He says, as we degrade ecosystems, the risk of future pandemics increases. Of course, other adverse effects are listed, such as the extinction of species, the threat to human beings, proliferation of pests, increased CO2, et cetera, right? So, and these are the things that mull around in my head, because I know we're here and I know we want to get back to normal, but I'm also understanding that I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here no more, personally. I want us to change our behavior, right? And so I went to another, this is University of Central Florida. They have a health and medicine page. And they asked the question, what causes a virus pandemic? And how did we get here? Are we asking this question? All right, because if we're not asking this question, we're rushing right back into another pandemic. All right, viruses have been around for nearly 500 million years, for a very long time. So what happened to make the COVID-19 virus into a pandemic? How did this virus appear out of nowhere and then spread to millions across the globe? You know, the story of, it came from a lab, it came from a bat. All right, I could go there with you to a certain extent, but there's more to it. All right, it says, for answers, we turn this week to Griffith Parks. This is who they're talking to, the Associate Dean of Research at the College of Medicine, Director of the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences, and a nationally recognized virus expert. This is in America. All right. You may be surprised to know most of us have caught other versions of coronavirus. There's a whole story on Bahamianology.com talking about how we was dealing with coronavirus from the 60s and the 70s all the way up to now. Right? This coronavirus is actually one of the types of viruses that can cause the common cold. So what we call the common cold is like the common cold on steroids. The COVID-19 virus is a unique type within the larger coronavirus family. That's why you could find coronavirus on the back of Lysol, because they knew that this pandemic was coming, but they've been killing coronaviruses, right? Humans have never experienced it before, this novel version, and so obviously it says, so no one had developed an immunity to it. This is why the vaccines have been produced, and natural immunity, which we're going to talk about too, is also being produced. Many viruses, in fact, are common in wild animals. They say there's no evidence you can get COVID virus from your dog or your cat. That's what they say. And I say that because we have this new culture of people riding around with the dog on their lap and kissing the dog in the mouth and all kind of craziness. And I need you to look at that. All right? In the wild, these viruses are often less severe. They may sicken or kill some weaker animals, but are not a widespread threat to the entire population. And the same thing is happening with us, it's just that more of us are weaker. Current research evidence suggests that the COVID-19 virus may have originated in bats. They say the danger comes when these viruses find a way to spread to humans. They either mutate to become more infectious to humans, or we come in very close contact with a wild animal. This can happen as more human development encroaches on wild habitats. We are totally not paying attention to the actual environment that we live in and how we are affecting it and it is now affecting us. Okay? That encroachment is one of the several reasons why we have seen pandemics increase in the past 15 to 20 years. All right? Because when we talk about pandemics, we hear about the one from 100 years ago, but we've been having pandemics or similar for, I would say, the past few years, right? So you've had the H1N1 virus, this type of flu. You've had another type of flu, H3N2 flu virus, right? So this H1N1 killed like 284,000. The H3N2 flu virus killed 1 million worldwide. Then you had the Asian flu, which killed 1.1 million. And then you have this COVID, right? You can go back even further. They talk about the Great Plague in London in 1665. They talk about yellow fever in the late 1800s. This H2N2, again, Asian flu in 1957, 1958. The H3N2 flu virus in 1968. And then all the way up to till 2009, you had the H1N1. So I'm saying this because we need to be aware of what's taking place in our environment. The experts are saying we are encroaching upon different ecologies of nature. We are not respecting boundaries. We are cross-contaminating with animals that have certain viruses, and we're bringing it home. Okay? Now, this may not seem important, but right now, yes, we're battling with the COVID-19. I don't want you to think that, COVID-19 is the worst virus that we could bring into our human sphere. There are worse viruses. You understand? It goes on to say, this animal-to-animal spread is thought to be very rare, but once a virus jumps to people, it can rapidly spread through the population because of our behaviors. So we don't need to go right back to normal. And this goes all the way down to littering. This goes all the way down to how we decide which area we're going to put a development in. This goes into how we decide to fish. You understand? Before I bring our guest on, right? This has been big talk for a while, even within the UN. They've had these solutions to biodiversity loss. There was a presentation in the UN report in 2019, same time COVID was coming around. The Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, urged action with these words: we can no longer destroy the diversity of life. It is our responsibility to future generations. All right? There have been some commitments that have been brought forth. They were trying to hit some targets between 2011 and 2020, and we failed miserably. Now there are targets that have been set for 2030, et cetera, but there's a Vision 2050 on biodiversity, living in harmony with nature. Please make yourself aware of this. All right, we have mainstreaming biodiversity. International development plans should be made a principle, a cross-cutting issue, and must be considered during implementation of the biodiversity framework. Biodiversity cannot be addressed as a standalone issue, but must be linked to the human issues and global processes that affect it. It is therefore necessary to encourage deep engagement with development sectors and actors to address the root causes of biodiversity loss. How are we destroying the environment? Such as food consumption. So this ain't just about where you're going to plant a tree. Everything down to what you're going to take and push in your mouth. That's what it's talking about. Pollution, energy, and mining. Stakeholders at the meeting were encouraged to consider removing harmful subsidies and introducing reforms whilst using biodiversity as an economical bias for sustainable development. So this is something that the world needs to focus on moving forward. They say into 2050, they want this initiative of living in harmony with nature, which in the Holy Coptic Church we know as Ma'at, universal order and the balancement of deeds. This is one of the oldest laws, if not the oldest law on the planet, symbolized by a scale with a heart and a feather, and utilized throughout courtrooms and justice systems around the world. This system of Ma'at. And so I wanted to set the table there. I know we got Dr. Davis with us. Ancelino, I know him as Lino, with Dr. Ancelino Davis. How you doing, my brother? Are you there with us?
Yes, I am here. I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Hey, you know I gotta try to act all professional because we used to being in the verse place and spitting poetry and thing. You know what I mean? But
Poetry, freedom.
you know. But let me just say, my brother, I'm very proud of you and what you've been able to accomplish, and I love your drive and your energy around helping the environment. And so as I was putting the last pieces of the show together, I said, I got to bring my brother, Dr. Davis, on. So you heard what I put on the table, biodiversity. What is this, or what have I left out from what you've heard so far?
So really, for me, I think a lot of us need to understand that biodiversity isn't just about these flashy organisms that we're always talking about, or the organisms that we can use for money. And a lot of people try to relate biodiversity to money or economics, but they don't recognize that for you to save conch, you have to save the seagrass. And the conch eat the algae that's growing on the seagrass.
Yes.
For you to save the conch is not just about, protecting this area that you see the big conch crawling around in.
Right.
Because baby conch have to float around in the ocean for several months. So if they're floating around in a polluted ocean, then they won't settle out into the sand. And if you have the sand is being dredged out or pumped out or shipped out of the country, you don't have the sand for those tiny little baby conch to crawl around in and hide in. And so biodiversity is not just, 5 or 20 or even 200 species. These are thousands and thousands of different species that all work together.
Right.
To make this system healthy and whole.
Right.
When you talk about, your home environment, if you have the man, woman, child inside a home environment, they all contribute in different ways in what they can do and their thought processes, how they uplift your community and not just in your family, out in the world. Women have a different perspective from men. They have different influences that affect the way they move through the world, how they change things. And we're now seeing some more of that in the environment and politics. We see what the differences in leadership can make. And there's a lot of perspectives to be taken.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your work, have you come across incidences where, like we were talking about in relation to pandemics, where we're crossing the lines and we are introducing ourselves to environments where we may not belong, and we're bringing back some things from some environments into our environment that don't belong in our environment? How has that been in your work?
Oh, of course. I mean, if we think about some of the big hot topics right now in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. Trinidad and Tobago has a male fill now.
Wow.
And the fishermen, they can't get into the water. So if you're a diver or something like that, you can't get into the water because there's oil on top of that water, right?
Wow.
Any turtles or fish that are trying to swim around in there, they're not only can they not survive, but you can't access them for food or sale. So if you were making a living as a fisherman,
right,
you no longer have that income.
Right.
But for other people in Trinidad and Tobago who maybe were living off of tourism, you cannot get that tourism money because there's an oil spill, right? And so no one wants to come to an oil-covered beach,
Right.
or they don't know the geography of Trinidad and Tobago, so they think the whole country is covered in oil.
Right.
And then now you're broke and you need to get you want some protein in your life. So you say, hey, let me turn to the ocean to go fishing. Oh, you can't do that. You have an oil spill.
Wow.
And this, you might think, oh, that's just one little oil spill. And there's a gentleman who, a Bahamian gentleman, who is a leader of the Caribbean Folk Fishers Association. But he once said on my Facebook page that a little oil spill never hurt anybody. And
that's what he say.
He doesn't say. But when you think about someone saying something like that,
right,
and you want to think, what is a little oil spill?
Right.
Right? Is there any such thing as a little oil spill?
Right.
And when that affects the environment, it's affecting biodiversity. It's affecting our community diversity. And these things last forever. You know, if we run out of conch, if we kill the conch population this year, we don't know until 4 years later.
Oh,
because
wow.
conch 4 years to come to maturity. So that means we could destroy our conch economy this year and not know until the next set of elections come around, right?
Wow.
And so it doesn't matter what our government does next term, if we've been destroying it all this time. Jamaica's conch is they're economically extinct. Florida's conch is economically extinct. And you know what? They're buying it from us because they cannot get it in their countries. And we are then destroying our conch population so that we can sell to them. And what a lot of people don't understand is biodiversity tends to take care of itself if we allow it to.
Right.
But we can, a shark might eat a bunch of fish. A conch might eat some stuff out of the seagrass. Turtles might eat some sponges. But their stomachs get full. Have you ever seen a bank account get full?
It just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing.
Exactly. And when we think of our biodiversity in terms of numbers, like, oh, how many trees can I cut down? How can I catch?
Yeah.
You know, how many turtles do I need to run this different thing? You can never fill up a bank account.
Right.
Right. And so we have to think about those things.
Right.
Christopher Columbus in his journal said you have to walk across the backs of sea turtles to get land.
Wow.
Can you imagine if you pull up on a beach one day and see that?
Like just a sea of sea turtles.
Yes. Can you imagine that?
Wow. That's all we could do now.
Parrots darken the sky. Imagine you step on an island and all the parrots just jump up out of the bush.
Right.
And just like a cloud of parrots.
Wow.
We will never see that in our time because parrots have pretty feathers. So, go and shoot the parrots and
they on Bay Street.
Yeah. That's what people were doing.
Wow.
That's what people are still doing because we don't respect biodiversity and we don't understand our connection to the biodiversity that we have in our country, on our planet, even in our home neighborhoods.
Right. And it's interesting you bring the point of just this stuff doesn't go away. When we leave a footprint, it's there. You know what I mean? We may not have to deal with it fully, but our children and our children's children can definitely have to deal with it. I was doing some research I'm sure everybody's researching vaccines and stuff. And I was paying attention to some of the things that they put in the vaccines. They call them adjuvants. These aspect or the element of the vaccine that ultimately helps to boost immunity once you give it to a person. And I was learning that they're getting a lot of these things out of nature. Initially in the 1920s, I know a gentleman, he used breadcrumbs. He was trying to vaccinate his horses. They used the oil from a shark liver. They used the bark of one particular tree to put into these vaccines. And that's what kind of really got me thinking, because it's like it's like a cycle. Okay, if all we do is pay attention to one aspect of nature, but we destroying another part, eventually we're going to suffer or pay for what thing that we do care about. What's your thoughts on that?
This is one of the issues with perspective and focus.
Right.
So I run the Science and Perspective brand, and your audience can look me up on social media at Sci Perspective.
Yeah, say it again. Super media.
On social media, Science and Perspective.
Beautiful.
And so when we think about things like the vaccine or the contents of the vaccine, or we think about our bush medicine or the cheese that we catch, humans are really good at targeting things. So if this year, or let's look back just a few years ago, the government of the Bahamas issued some permissions for people to harvest sea cucumbers.
Wow.
And we don't eat sea cucumbers in the Bahamas, and we see them around and we don't really care.
Right.
Right. But you have someone on the other side of the world who says, hey, we'll pay X amount for sea cucumbers. People get in the ocean and start taking up all of those sea cucumbers. And they hit them so hard and so fast that there are patches of that beautiful white sand around Andros that you are flying over in a plane, and you're like, why is that sand yellow and orange now? Did you know that sea cucumbers ingest the sand, clean off the bacteria, and put out that white, clean sand that we like?
Wow, I didn't know that. I did not. That's almost like the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't know that. Most students in the Bahamas don't know that. Unfortunately, our leaders did not know that.
Right.
But they could see the money. Right?
Right.
And they often get these misrepresentations of how much money that is, or the person who's the fisherman, they know, I could catch 150 sea cucumbers in a couple hours, and that'll pay for the day.
Right.
We get the same thing with environmental impact assessments, where a developer says, I'm going to bring this hotel or this port, and we're going to give you $5 million or $500 million. But until you actually read this 300-page EIA, this environmental impact assessment,
right,
you don't know that $5 million doesn't start until 5 years down the line.
Wow.
Right? So all the damage that they do to the environment in that time, that loss of use, all those animals and wildlife that's lost, that you're not going to get paid back for that until 5 years in the future. With something like oil exploration, they hadn't paid their fees, but they were already drilling and stuff.
Wow.
And when you think about that, they could have wiped out the biodiversity on the west side of Andros with an oil spill.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, they claim that they did a nice clean drill at Perseverance 1, but they actually did a public presentation where he admitted to actually there was a piece of metal that dropped down into the well while they were drilling.
Wow.
And that's why they had to jig around it to try to get around this piece that they had dropped inside the well. And that's what caused them more expense and more time to drill. And they still didn't get to the depth that they had targeted.
Wow.
You have all of this risk to us as Bahamians, as fisher folk,
right,
relatively speaking, poor Black communities.
Yes.
Where you have these international agents who are they're making money hand over fist. And the risk that they're putting on us, if you had an oil spill on the west side of Andros, how long would it take for our resources to get there? Because the National Emergency Management Agency, we actually don't have the boats to contain an oil spill.
We don't?
No, we don't. We do not have the booms to put around the oil spill to contain it. We don't. We absolutely do not have them.
But we talking about drilling for oil.
But we talking about drilling for oil. Wow. Inside their paperwork, this oil company was saying that they were going to get support from Florida and the U.S. You know what? The U.S. said, don't drill for oil there.
The place you say you're getting support from. Wow.
Right, exactly. And the distance that you have to go, the oil spill, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and I was on the oil spill emergency response task force during that oil spill for the Bahamas. And we went out to the Keystyle Bank to see what we had there in case any oil came over there. You know what it is to walk around the island and see turtle tracks where these turtles have come up to lay their eggs. That's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
And you have this big oil spill in the Gulf. The U.S. could not handle that. Wow. And you mean to say our little country can handle that?
My Lord.
When Finland stood up to that news reporter who was saying that they, like, why we are stopping the drugs coming through our country. And Finland said, would you expect us to do our little country if y'all can't do anything?
Right. And y'all got
but we actually invited these oil people. You know, that don't make no sense.
Right.
But yeah, our biodiversity and our protection, that to me, a lot of people think I'm a scientist because I love all these animals and stuff, but part of it is also a little bit of selfishness. I want to know that we have access to them in the future.
Right. Yeah, right. We want our children to be able to access and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine your kids may never see a conch.
That's crazy. Wow.
Right. Just put that in your mind, right? Imagine if your kids never see a conch. That sounds ridiculous, right? But it's a potentiality. Wow. It's a possibility. Wow. You know, people in other Caribbean nations, if you go and dive in the water and bring up a conch shell, they'd be amazed.
They ain't even know. They ain't used to seeing that.
Right, and this is the thing. You can affect the environment, and then that turns around and affects your community, and it affects your culture. So, for example, you go inside the airport. You know that big mural that they have inside the Bahamas, the Nassau International Airport.
Yeah.
You look up and you see that lionfish there.
Right.
Wasn't no lionfish. There weren't any lionfish inside Bahamian paintings 20 years ago.
Right.
You have the lobster, the turbot, the Nassau grouper and stuff featured in everything.
Right.
Before the tourism focus we didn't have poinciana trees, you know.
Really?
Look at the art. Look at the art from back in the day when they're drawing all of these sea grape trees. Everything was sea grape trees. Wow. Dorman Stubbs, he has some of his paintings are really famous for how he captures the poinciana trees.
Right.
But we didn't have them before the government said, hey, let's sell tourism. Come to the Bahamas. We look just like South Florida with the poinciana trees.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
You look at old paintings of the coastline and you see the cocoa plum and sea grape trees, the railroad vine. Now you look at paintings and photos of the Bahamas, and what do you see on the beach? casuarina, right?
Yes.
Casuarina was introduced to the Bahamas, to the Caribbean 20s.
Wow.
From Australia. And now people call that bay cedar. They were up in arms about us cutting down these casuarina trees.
Right.
You know what? And we get back to biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of life. If you go out to Coral Harbor Beach now, go right out to Coral Harbor Beach, you see one type of tree, casuarina trees. You go out on the coast of San Salvador, in some areas where the casuarina has not arrived yet. You got cocoa plum, darling plum, sedges, grasses, natal plum. You have black torch, white torch, 3 different types of mangroves. And you really want to tell me you're going to trade one tree that you cannot eat,
right,
for furniture because it cracks and all that stuff. You can't even sit under that tree for shade because the little fruit are sticking you in your foot and in your backside when you sit down. The casuarina isn't a Bahamian tree. Every time I see a casuarina tree, that casuarina tree choosing violence.
Did you say choosing violence?
The casuarina tree just gone gup up my friend Lashanti the siren. And if your guests wanna learn some more about the Bahamas and science and the environment, she has Siren Sundays on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, plug her, man. Like, what's the YouTube channel?
Lashanti the siren presents Siren Sundays.
And spell siren.
Siren, S-I-R-E-N.
Okay, like siren. Okay. Powerful. Every Sunday. That's every Sunday. Yeah. Powerful.
And actually, Science and Perspective is sponsoring it this month.
And that's your company.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And it's Bahamians to understand more about our environment and to bring science through the lens of Bahamian culture, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have someone say, oh, we're going to get millions of dollars from oil. But then as a Bahamian, you need to ask, how does $5 million 20 years from now equate to the $16 million that we get from tourism every year? Because when there's a hurricane in the Bahamas, people cancel their flights or delay their flights.
Yep.
When there's an oil spill in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, they're not going to see any tourists for a while, a good minute.
Wow.
Remember for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill? Guess what? They haven't finished cleaning that up yet.
They still cleaning that up?
From 2010.
Wow.
11 years later. What are you going to do as a Bahamian if there's no tourism 10 years?
Man.
Now,
we gotta run to a quick break. Let me run to a quick break and then come back, wrap up with you, and then we gotta go into news. So you can hang tight for the commercial break?
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man. 96.9 FM Guardian Radio. You're here on the Revolution. Kahunan Kusara. Keep it locked.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Many people wonder, what makes Boost Academy unique? Maybe it's our 8-to-1 student-staff ratio, the emphasis we place on student individuality, our focus on numeracy, and creating better citizens by sharpening students' critical thinking skills. One of our many talented teachers, program facilitators, and mentors. Or just maybe it is our commitment to taking full responsibility for your child's education, no hidden fees or costs. Regardless of what it is, let us help your child reach their full potential. Boost Academy is currently enrolling students of grades 4 through 12. Visit www.boostbahamas.com to apply now.
Summer is heating up, and Burger King Nassau is bringing the flavor. Introducing our all-new take on a classic chicken sandwich, the Barbecue Swiss Crispy King. Our new sandwich is full of smoky and tangy flavor and features our crispy chicken patty with tangy chipotle sauce, onion rings, bacon, Swiss cheese, lettuce, and tomato, plus a smoky barbecue sauce on a soft potato bun. The new Barbecue Swiss Crispy King chicken sandwich with fries and a Pepsi is a summer treat you will love to eat, but only available for a limited time and only at Burger King Nassau, where taste is king.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.2 Smart Talk, all day.
And welcome back to the Revolution here on 96.9 Guardian Radio. You're here with Calhoun Anku Sarah, and our guest on this first part of the show, Dr. Ancelino Davis. And what's your specialty again, Doc? Just so we know, let everybody know what you specialized in.
So primarily, I'm a capacity builder. So I teach people how to do the science that they need, and I help to connect them with the resources that they need to do the science. So, for example, sponsoring Siren Sundays to make sure that voice of Bahamians and Bahamian science is heard, or delivering binoculars to Friends of the Environment in Abaco so that they can deliver some life and bird related educational initiatives, or supporting the Bahamas National Trust with getting tents and sleeping bags for their campers.
Okay, all right.
So that making sure that kids get these experiences where ultimately I don't want everyone to be a scientist,
Right.
But I want everybody to have at least an understanding of the value of our natural resources, and how those natural resources affect day to day. Right now, for example, you have the Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation in Andros primarily, but throughout the Bahamas, talking about these issues related to mining. So aggregate mining, and the EIA for the North Andros Mining Project, for example, that runs through a huge area of wild lands.
Wow.
And it's really just talking about digging out this aggregate. And out of that area, the groundwater is going to take its place, or the salt water is going to rush in. And our groundwater is very well connected. So as soon as you start putting the explosive chemicals into the ground, that's connecting throughout the water in Andros. For people who are pulling up their well water, how are you taking care of that? When you run that all the way out to the bay, for you to have a lakeside marina or whatever you want in some of these areas where they dredge out, that salt water that comes in, that now pollutes the groundwater in the surrounding area. So people can't get fresh groundwater anymore. It costs more for them to get drinking water into their homes. And once you dig out that land, that doesn't ever grow back. That aggregate center of an island, all those pine trees that grow there year after year, you can never harvest them again.
That's it. Wow.
Right. That's just a one-time, one-shot thing. It's done and it's done. And this includes birds that migrate down from North America to come visit the Bahamas or live in the Bahamas most of the year. And they're going to come down here and they'll be like, what y'all do with our house?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
You have endangered species like the Bahama oriole on Andros that people thought they were nowhere to be found. And now people like Scott Johnson, the Bahamas National Trust, they found out that they are nesting in these diverse habitats. But again, we just see the money, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of that, we have a texter that asks a question. So we still looking to ban Congo exports by 2022? So this is what the texter is asking.
I cannot cannot speak to exactly how that legislation will look.
Okay.
I think from the standpoint of the broader fishing community for sustainability and being very forward thinking, you can have a broad base of Bahamians that are invested in and making money from the conch industry. When you have every hotel or restaurant is guaranteed conch for the next 80 years.
Right.
Whereas right now, you might have one or two companies who are selling millions of pounds of conch out of the country.
Wow.
And it's also really difficult for you to judge them and really police them for selling the proper size.
Right.
So they can be selling a lot of undersized conch, underage conch that have not had the chance to reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just for us to police all these ports and docks that they come in on, and they're cracking the conch out of the shell while they're at sea.
Yeah, so you can't tell.
And so, right, because of the way the Bahamas is set up, our borders are too porous for us to actually police something like that.
Right.
But conch is actually listed on the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So you need a special permission to actually ship them across borders and for you to sell them across borders. The Bahamas is the only place that still has a healthy conch population.
Wow. Listen, man, I don't want to stop you. I know we got to run to a break. I also want to congratulate you, my brother, because I understand you're going to be a part of the Bahamas National Resource Foundation in short order. And I want to congratulate you on that. Welcome to the family. I love the work that you're doing. I love that we have people in this country, more than just what's right in front of us, but the big picture, stepping back from looking at a tree so we could see the forest. Thank you so much. We ran out of time. I wanted to get some more out of you, but I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you. I'm always available for the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, people can always reach me online. If you can spell my name, you could find me, or you could just look science and perspective. And we could all use more science, but we all need a little more perspective.
Thank you, my brother. Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We're running to the news. Back after that.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. You're listening to the Guardian News Network. I'm Taylor Ferguson. Here's the news at 1 o'clock. It is Thursday, August 19th, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. The next general election will be held on September 16th. Prime Minister Dr. Minis making that announcement today in a national address.
Earlier today, Parliament was dissolved. It is time for you, the people, to choose who you will elect to form the next government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The Prime Minister said his government's goal is for the Bahamas to be one of the most vaccinated small island developing countries in the world. According to doses, including doses arriving in the coming weeks, the Bahamas has been able to secure well in excess of 550,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Minis said it's time for the Bahamian people to choose who will lead them in the post-pandemic era.
Your next government will have key decisions to make in enacting post-pandemic public health legislation. Your next government will have to make other key decisions to build on the robust economic growth started on our watch. Your next government will have to make important decisions on rebuilding and renewing a post-COVID-19 Bahamas. A new mandate is needed to ensure that a government is in place to do this difficult work over the long term as we are reaching a critical turning point in the pandemic.
The Prime Minister will address the nation again on Sunday, August 22nd, on matters relating to the ongoing response to the COVID pandemic, including the arrival of more vaccines and more in the vaccine rollout in the Family Islands. 3 more COVID-related deaths have been confirmed by health officials, 2 women from New Providence, an 84-year-old who died on August 9th, and an 89-year-old who died on August 14th. A 43-year-old man from Exuma died August 15th. There were another 125 new cases confirmed on Tuesday. The number of those hospitalized now, 145. It's the first day of the Pfizer vaccine rollout on New Providence. National COVID-19 Consultative Committee Chair Dr. Mercelin Dalregis speaking to reporters today at the Kendall Isaacs Gym.
We learned that you need a very tight appointment system and you need number assignments because there is a thirst for the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. So what you see this morning is you're trying very hard to keep an appointment system. Although there are walk-ins and there are exceptions, these are only exceptions. And that is really to facilitate the time interval. We want people to have the vaccine. We want you to come. And if you have difficulty making an appointment, we hope to have volunteers from all agencies come and assist us because we do need more people to help.
During the Pfizer pilot on Monday, there were 45 children who received the vaccine.
We were supposed to run a pilot of 60. 120 showed up, 150 showed up, and 45 of them were children. That's a large number for a pilot. We weren't anticipating that, but that's good. And we want the school population to take advantage of it. And what we find that the parents who are vaccinated, they're the ones who bring their children. When the parents who are not vaccinated bring their children, have a vaccination.
Dr. Dalregis said a team is traveling to Grand Bahama to work out logistics.
We have an advanced team going to Grand Bahama this Friday to set up the logistics because they need to establish another site in Grand Bahama. We also have a great demand for Abaco. And we are meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock to see how we're going to accommodate all the needs for and the demand for the vaccine. We had a supply problem before, now we have a demand. We have to figure out how we're going to do demand because we really want as many people to have the vaccine quickly, and we need more resources to do it.
She said the plan for the Johnson & Johnson rollout will be announced shortly. 38,400 doses arriving in country today. And that is the news at 1 o'clock. I'm Taylor Ferguson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for updates on the hour, and have a great afternoon.
Girl, Junior just showed me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good-for-nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there because the police looking for him. He on that wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send pictures direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas. Then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons?
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so police can tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
.9 FM, Guardian Radio. You're here with yours truly, Kahun Anku Sarah, also known as Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III. And I am happy to be here with you on this beautiful Thursday. A lot going on in the country. let me jump to some text before I continue with today's show, because like I said, we wanted to start with biodiversity. We want to talk a little vaccine hesitancy. But obviously, like one of our texters is saying, hey, man, election coming. Why y'all talking about biodiversity? This texter says, great show. I like the angle you took on the virus. It was very enlightening. Thank you for listening. All right. This is the disgruntled texter. With respect to your acknowledged guest, the nation's PM just called an election, and you can't pivot to covering hot topic on your radio show, an insult to your advertisers and regular listeners. Just turning you off to listen to a competitor station. I expect more from this organization. I'm sorry about that, man. We can talk about that a little bit. Kind of way. We can talk about it a little bit. Someone say, Juan McCartney was right. Early election, September 16th. And they say F&M, F&M 2 straight. All right. It's a free country. You could say what you want to say in that regard. This text says, pandemics happen simply because humankind are the only animal that lives, quote unquote, divorced from nature. All right? AC current, Wi-Fi, cell phone towers, etc. don't exist in nature. See? Text, you get the right picture. Let me tell you why I didn't just come on here and talk about the election. I think it's nasty and despicable in this country how consecutive governments, right, are able to use the actual election day as an election tool. That can't be democratic. You could literally use election day as an election tool. That's nasty. I ain't just talking about this particular government. I'm talking about the fact that we keep saying, let's get a fixed election date, but we playing with that. You understand? Let's run to this call. Caller, you're on the revolution. Welcome.
Namaste.
Namaste, Elder. How are you?
I'm right here holding. Thank God. A godly day to no voice.
Thank you, my brother.
It is dark, voice.
Yes. Yes.
Man, it's a beautiful show. I don't care what anybody else say. The thing is, we're getting a better understanding, or we're getting conflicting understanding of this virus, this COVID-19.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now what I want to ask you, right, I wish you still had the doctor on, but he mentioned environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
What came to my mind, you can catch that, a ship could bring that in from off the waters.
Bring what in?
That pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, a tree can be floating in the water and bring that from one place to the other.
I guess technically, yeah.
Technically right. You see what I'm saying? But we're not getting those kind of education from our government or, our doctors.
See, Elder Bremen, this is why, it ain't that I'm paying attention to what's going on in the country, but I understand what a distraction is. You understand? I understand that, unfortunately, as Bahamians, I'm not saying voting is not important. I'm not saying election is not important. But you ain't voting today. Okay, your man dissolved the parliament. All right. You already know you're going to vote. All right. Either you're registered or you ain't registered. I don't know what else to talk about on that. You understand? Outside of talking about the fact that we keep playing with our future.
Yes.
When we take the tools of democracy and literally use it as a weapon, a political tool to decide whether or not the Bahamian people can still have a voice in this country.
But we not independent. We still got the queen, the crown there. The flag may be gone, but the crown is still there, and they swear into the crown.
And guess what?
And it's her successors.
That's right, her heirs and successors forevermore.
That's right. You see what I'm saying?
And see, after all of this, the virus, we still got to deal with the virus.
That's right.
We still got to deal with the fact that We literally have several organizations in this country on strike, including the medical field. I don't understand what we doing by even not trying to. I mean, I don't know the ins and the outs and the specifics, but I don't understand why our nurses and our medical professionals got to be on strike to get some respect. I will never understand that.
Boy,
If nothing else was the trigger to get them sorted out, I thought a pandemic would have done it. My Lord.
You know, pay the people. Do decency to the people.
Because these people who putting us in lockdown and shutting this down and curfew this and curfew that, their pay don't get mixed up in that. They just get their pay.
Of course not.
They pay is get their pay. But we paying them though.
And we paying them.
So all I'm saying, see, Bahamians, we gotta start to step back and see the bigger picture.
Yes. Brother Uncle.
Go ahead.
Let me show you something. The authorities, like the lawyers and and a lot of doctors, they are being emasculated because I don't see anything wrong with them just standing up and speaking the truth or speak the knowledge in which they have pertaining to the situation.
Yeah.
Our point is, right?
Yeah.
Other conflicting situation. This pandemic was started from around this virus started from around in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that we just getting information? Other thing is, right? It is said that it happened in the problem started in a lab in Wuhan, some of China, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's alleged, right?
Yes.
The thing is now we're hearing it. It's an environment situation. Well, who established it?
Right.
Who made it who made it wide world?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To be an environment situation.
Right.
And nobody is saying anything. They doesn't have on pants and dress, the type of which they should have to be educating the Bahamian people.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Well, plenty people singing for their supper, you know. You know that, though.
Well, yeah, I realize that.
You understand that's what's going on because plenty side talk going on, but people still got to pay their bills. So, that's the way it is.
Man, boy, let me show you. Life is more important than any bill.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And the people it's time for them to realize that your life is more important. Your people, your family, the Bahamas.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the government only there for 1 or 2 terms. But you got a whole nation. You got hundreds of thousands of people got to live here.
You understand?
And our great grand and stuff like that. In years to come, got to be here.
Yep. Let me run to another call.
Yeah, our people are sleeping. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Give the family where you guys sleep.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let's run to the next call here on the Revolution. Caller, you are on live.
Uncle, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm blessed, thank God for life.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the situation here, with the elections being called today,
yeah,
I stand to be corrected and I stand to be clarified.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm about to say, I'm saying it most respectfully.
Yes.
But I honestly believe that was one of the greatest display of pettiness by a prime minister I've ever seen.
Right.
And on top of that,
mm-hmm.
why call an election in the midst of the pandemic?
In the middle of crisis, man. I mean,
crisis.
It would be bad enough if it was only the pandemic. But on top of the pandemic, you got the nurses them out on the road. You got BPL them out on the road. You got, the people them in general out on the road.
Yeah. I mean, you just talked about the matters having to do with the election and a fixed date, I think you'd mentioned just a while ago. This is something that Dr. Minnis had campaigned on.
Yes, he did.
Prior to 2017 run, up the election.
Yes.
And Carl Bethel came out some time ago, the Attorney General of the Bahamas, and said words to the effect, man, they didn't mean that.
We used to conk, you see?
Yeah,
We used to conk.
No, man, they really didn't mean that. They were just saying that for the sake, and I'm paraphrasing him now.
Yeah.
He said something to that effect in the public now.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, they really think politicians, as Dr. Minnis and Carl Bethel and those are of, they really honestly think the Bahamian people are stupid? Do they really think we are stupid?
They really think me stupid.
They have to.
I mean, you know what I think?
Because and let me tell you, you know that saying that a promise is a comfort to a fool?
Yes.
I don't believe that.
No way.
Neither do I agree with that. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
The problem isn't the person who is hearing the promise.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the person who's making the promise and don't intend to keep it.
Right. And we hold them accountable.
Yeah. A promise is a discredit to the man or woman who makes it knowing that they don't intend on keeping it.
Wow, that's another perspective.
Okay?
Yes.
That's what Dr. Minnis and his crew did.
Yeah.
They promised everything the Bahamian people needed and wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew within their hearts that they had no intentions of keeping them.
Right.
Look at the situation with putting Bahamians first. You have Toby Smith over there on Paradise Island with the Lighthouse Club of Bahamians.
Yeah.
You have Prescott Smith and Andros with the Ocean Hole Marina that was approved by this administration.
Right.
And has not yet been given his permit to develop his project.
Right.
Okay. You had the Juan Luther Foundation on Luthra as a group of Bahamians now.
Right.
Who wanted to buy and develop that site by Bahamians for Bahamians.
Right.
This very same government administration who campaigned on the people, this is the people's time.
Right.
And we, the Bahamian people, understood that and took that to mean that the crew back then were looking out for the small man on the street.
Mm-hmm.
The same group have gone, turn around, and completely define that.
Yeah.
The people that they meant obviously weren't the typical Bahamians. They meant the ones in Lyford Key. They meant the ones with the big dollars. They meant the ones with the dogs who could get special permission during the COVID-19 to bury their dogs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you and me, who Grammy and auntie and uncle and brother and sister in the morgue, we can't bury them for some reason or another. Come on, don't tell me you care as a government about the Bahamian people when you have these things prevailing in the country that the Bahamian people are suffering from at the hands of you, the government.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, now that the bell was rung today.
Yeah.
The thing that I saw. It's so sad that there's no longer Housen Moultrie is no longer speaker.
Right.
Because he could only be removed out of that position by the dissolving of Parliament, which has happened today.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, yesterday was supposed to have been the people speaking up in Parliament, in the open Parliament, right?
Ah, exactly.
But yet, Dr. Minnis, for whatever reason, saw fit to have the proroguing done yesterday before the event started and after the event got started.
Right.
Now, what government leader, prime minister, in his or her right mind, is going to do something like that if you care about the people, if you care about democracy?
That's the point I'm making. You're using the actual election
exactly.
as a political tool.
Yeah, as a political tool, as a political football.
Yeah.
Playing games with the hearts and the minds of the Bahamian people and our democracy.
Yeah.
Mr. Christie, in January 2013, slapped the Bahamian people in our faces when he overturned the results of the referendum on gambling.
I remember that. The opinion poll.
38. 38 polls were constituencies, voted. And out of that 38, 36 said no.
Right.
But Mr. Christie did not regard that. Now, my point in saying that is this. That was bad, and that was wrong, and that was anti-democratic.
Right.
And as bad as and insulting as that was,
that pales
Dr. Minnis has made what Mr. Christie did look like
child's play.
child's play. Dr. Minnis has insulted and assaulted the Constitution, the integrity of our democracy. He has demoralized so many people. You know how many people ain't even checking the vote this time around?
Plenty people.
Because of the lies and the hypocrisies or misrepresentations they have seen demonstrated by this particular administration.
And previous.
Well, definitely the previous. See, this is why I cannot vote for the PLP nor the FNM. I didn't vote for them in any of the last elections. But let me tell you why. The PLP had 35 years in total. 10 under Pindling,
right.
10 under Christie. I'm sorry, 25 under Pindling,
right.
10 under Christie.
Right.
The FNM had, what, 15? 20?
Yeah.
Let me see. 10, 15 under Ingram, was it?
Yeah, three unconsecutive. Yeah,
Two consecutive under Ingram, and then he took a break, and then he came back,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
And then this one, so it's 20 years under the FNM in total. Now, why would I give any boss or any CEO of a company a chance to continue to do what they're doing if what they're doing is hurting the company?
Yeah, if it ain't working.
Ain't working. I mean, you are going to give or sign on national TV a contract, the Oban deal I'm referring to.
Yeah.
A contract with someone who was exposed in the media to be a disreputable human being, signed his signature, or signed a signature that was not his signature, publicly. And you as Prime Minister are going to sign on to that? You're making me, see, the Prime Minister made every Bahamian look crooked, you know.
Yeah.
When the international community sees something like that, Uncle, they ain't gonna say the Prime Minister of the country did that. They're saying the Bahamas or the Bahamian, every honest Bahamian in this country was made to look like a crook.
Definitely to look like a fool. When man sign a different name in the front of everybody.
But see, that was nothing short of irresponsible, and it bordered on corruption. Okay,
yeah, that gotta be.
Okay, but watch this now. And let me give an example with Mr. Christie to be balanced here. Mr. Christie went off to the international community in 2015, fall thereabouts, in France somewhere, and essentially, basically, told the entire world that the Bahamas has no natural resources. But Uncle, that same Prime Minister Christie using solar energy systems on his house,
right,
which he made a big public show of, and God bless him that he got them.
Right.
But that's the very same natural resources, sunlight, that he told the world we ain't got none of.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, see, when I tell you I felt so embarrassed as a Bahamian, my God, I felt so embarrassed when I heard that. And then Dr. Minnis comes right behind, and he is going to sign this thing with them Oban people, again, making you and me as Bahamians look stupid. You see, when our athletes win, all of us look good.
Yeah.
When our politicians do foolishness, all of us look bad.
I with you, my brother.
All I can say is, it don't matter where you is in this country as a Bahamian. When right is done, you as a Bahamian, if your leader anywhere does it, the finger is pointing as you and me as Bahamians, because they don't say the leader. They say Bahamians are like this or like that.
I think you said a mouthful for us all, and I appreciate you calling that. Yeah, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Because the frustration level in this country, if there's such a thing as a frustration index, is off the charts right now. And so, we as a people, again, we got to begin to change our perspective on what it is we truly need to focus on. I'm not saying people shouldn't be focused on election and politics, but in the midst of that, we missing a lot. You understand? Like I said, we literally in the middle of a pandemic. We were in the middle of a crisis right now. It just seemed a little too contrived to have an election call at this point. It's like we living in the middle of a spot between two grown men. You know what I'm saying? The Speaker of the House and the Prime Minister having a row, and we in the middle of that. You know, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Before we take any more calls or texts, and you can call in 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. You know, anything is open on the table. But I'm also wanting to share some things with you that I think we need to discuss. The vaccines rolled out today, but we do know that there has been a lot of vaccine hesitancy. And there's been a lot of people, social media and otherwise, talking about it back and forth. I mean, the conversations have gotten really crazy. You know, you're stupid if you don't take the vaccine, or you're stupid if you do take the vaccine. You know, but the point is we attacking each other on this point, when in truth, you know, there's good arguments on both sides. All right. At the end of the day, we all got to be responsible for our personal health, because we are going to be the ones left holding the bag in any event, right? I want to just share a couple things with you before I jump to the next call. Brother Ali, you can cue up that first video with Dr. Dwayne Sands and Nahaja Block. All right, just let me know when you got it. And I want to play this because when we were, and we're still learning a lot about everything that's going on. Now, you know, there's a third shot that many people are going to have to take, when that wasn't necessarily a part of the narrative initially, right? For those who are being vaccinated. The vaccines are still not fully approved by the FDA. You know, there's a lot that anybody who doesn't necessarily have any comorbidities or is relatively healthy should be hesitant about taking something that they don't understand. Now, if you have an immunocompromised system, then by all means, you know, I'm not a person here wishing the vaccine doesn't work. My mother took the vaccines. You understand? So I'm not here praying that the vaccine don't work so I could be right. No. That ain't what we talk. I think some people, if you feel like you need to take it, should take the vaccine. Okay? But I also feel that there are some people who shouldn't take the vaccine. And I don't think those people should be marginalized, and I don't think those people should be castigated, and I don't think those people should be called idiots, because some people actually have an informed view on this matter. All right? You got that clip ready, brother? All right, he's trying to get it, right? If you don't get that one, you can get the next one, right? I want to read something for you, right? As I was going through this topic, okay? And these are scientists that are making these statements that I'm going to read. Not just any scientists, but scientists from the WHO, okay? Scientists in 2019, in December of 2019, scientists questioned the safety of vaccines, not just the COVID-19 vaccine, but vaccines. All right, this is WHO Global Vaccine Safety Summit, December 2019. Okay, this particular quote is coming from the summary of that particular summit. All right. And the actual video for it, Brother Ali, he's going to play some of that, right? But one of the quotes coming out of this summit is that we've shifted the human population to dependency on vaccine-induced immunity. In other words, the only way we're going to get any immunity is from a vaccine. Okay, this is what the scientists are saying. We're in a very fragile state now. We have developed a world that is dependent on vaccinations. That concerns me as it concerns the scientists at the WHO. So if you want to call them quacks, you can call them quacks. That's your business. All right? These is a lady, I'm going to give you her name in a few seconds. She heads the vaccine confidence unit at the WHO, right? And this was important for me. Her name is Heidi Larson. Heidi Larson is director of the Vaccine Confidence Project. Okay? She is the one making this quote that we've shifted the human population to dependency on vaccine-induced immunity. We're in a very fragile state now. We have developed a world that is dependent on vaccines. There's also concern because our dear former Minister of Health, he too, and if he does find the clip, we'll play it, right? With Nahaja Block, talked about the fact that we don't know how these vaccines are going to affect us down the road. We don't know if they're going to create cancer in our bone marrow and et cetera, et cetera. Yes, the efficacy is great, but what else is a part of these vaccines? What makes them so good? This is our Minister of Health, former Minister of Health. He said that. Now, he's since taken a vaccine. He didn't take the messenger RNA vaccine, but he has taken a vaccine, a COVID vaccine. So when a person who's reasonable sees that, some of you may remember that conversation, right? It's on my Facebook page if you need it, right? We see that, and we're supposed to just forget that? We're supposed to just pretend that didn't happen? We're supposed to just act like that wasn't said by one of the most reputable doctors in the country? Because I ain't forget, and plenty other people ain't forget. Now, yes, we see what is happening in the country with regard to COVID-19 and the hospital being in shambles. Let me just say this. The hospital has been limping for a little while now. COVID-19 is not the main culprit. It is what is being blamed at this point. But I used to work in the hospital. I know about people being in the hallway from the early 2000s. So we was struggling for a little while now. You understand? Don't use people as props when they suffering and dying to roll out a vaccine. Yes, people need to know what's going on. But we need to know what's going on all around. We need to understand, have that same energy with the people that are recovering from COVID-19. We need to have that same energy when we investigate natural immunity, because they're doing it in Israel. They're talking about natural immunity being complete and robust. They're talking about natural immunity lasting for years. They're studying the people who actually had the SARS from 2003 and finding antibodies 17 years later from SARS, from natural immunity. We can go on, right? But the idea that we're in this back and forth with each other because some of us are glued to the television and listening to whatever suits our narrative and then attacking each other with it, it's crazy. It's totally crazy. The vaccine companies, due to something called the PrEP Act, they're not responsible if you die. They're not responsible if you, worse, suffer some type of illness that debilitates you for the rest of your life. They take their billions and they go home. And we're supposed to just pony up and act like that's not the case. If they have such faith in these vaccines, then be willing to take the responsibility if something goes wrong. Don't call us stupid. Before the vaccines were in the country, if the virus was going to kill as many of us as it's being made to seem, let me tell you something, the vaccine, we wouldn't need no vaccines. Because the vaccines just rolling out today. Today. Because we didn't have all the vaccines for people if they wanted it. So if everybody wanted a vaccine, what would the narrative have been? Because we wouldn't have had them. You wouldn't have had no vaccines. So you couldn't have called no one stupid. The most we could do is say, man, the first real countries, they hardened the vaccines and we suffering. We could have cried with our sovereign selves, right? But I want us to just be a little bit more willing to look at information that ain't just necessarily on the news and these news cycles. Take care of your health. This is not going to be the last pandemic that we're facing. That's why I started the show talking about how the pandemics are occurring, because we don't respect nature. So if you don't respect your immune system, don't expect for your immune system to be there for you when you need it. I've been in many conversations where we talk about drinking alcohol or eating a bunch of red meat or eating a bunch of pork. You know what y'all tell me? Man, you gonna die anyway. I might as well just die eating. Blah, 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 blah. I ain't laughing at you, but let me tell you, that's who a lot of the COVID patients are the people who wasn't checking for their health. That's the fact of the matter. So you could say, well, you know, it's because they're not vaccinated. It's almost 300,000 people on this island. We're talking about 53 who died in hospital, and God bless them, and I'm not trivializing their deaths. I had to take my uncle to the grave who died from COVID, so I am one of you as far as family is concerned of lost ones. I had to bury a priest in my church who lives abroad, who died from COVID. So I'm not sitting up here unaffected by COVID. But I also understand that Big Pharma is at work. I also understand that people are just so, I just want to go back to the restaurant. I just want to go back to the movies. Come on. I want to do that too. But I also want to have a long life. I don't want to realize 15, 20 years from now, when my children getting ready to graduate from college, I sitting up taking chemo and the vaccine company going long time, along with these leaders who telling me, oh, you know, you're irresponsible if you don't take this thing. But you were saying it from the jump that you don't know what it is. Let's take a call. Call you on the Revolution 96.9 Guardian Radio. Think they call him back? Okay. You there, caller?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling the Revolution.
I know somebody with the Miami Rice and took the daughter to the doctor. So I may take that other one. One short thing.
Right.
I asked them, how is it? So they say, when I took it, my hand went dead.
What?
I was taken aback. Like, why your hand went dead? A few minutes, I'd shake it. That's what they told me. Like, I don't know. So we just did it. Let's see if we get the same results when we take it here. Like, it took me for a loop. Why your hand went dead and for a few minutes it went dead.
Right.
I know that they stick it where in the nerve.
Because they probably
whatever is that. It kills your heart for a few minutes. But listen, election time, right? I think we could raise a whole month on some, on campaigning and do election, than taking shots. Now, those vaccines have a on date.
Yes, they do.
So I believe we could waste plenty of them, because 3 months' time, they have 3 months to be used.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was a bad timing on minutes behalf to go into election mode. Bahamians some of us are radical, row and shine on in the bars, pissing and shine on. It should be, because some of us are, election
junkies.
PLP up in a row.
Yes.
And the virus, I listened to this man from University of Miami, and his name is David. He's a scientist at Dr. Memorial. He sequenced that virus. He said that Delta virus is so contagious, or we say catchy, it's like chicken pox.
Right. Yes, I saw that.
That's what he said. He's a scientist at Dr. Memorial.
Right.
I think it's David, what's his name?
Right.
But he says that virus is like chicken pox. If we know a child walking to a woman with chicken pox, the whole class got it.
Yep.
So this campaigning thing could make the hospital collapse. It might just pour down. Because this is not the time to go campaigning. People come to your house, going to vote. Because I don't know what Minnie's trying to do. Minnie's trying to get by not doing a real rally. Because he can't talk to us without speaking to us, without somebody write the script for him. Maybe that would be his plan.
So you think he called the election to lessen the amount of interaction that we would have at rallies and campaigning and et cetera, et cetera. That's what you think.
That's my belief.
Okay.
But has he spoken to Weston? Last time he campaigned, did he rally in Salias? No. Because he know Christmas is that bad. He can sit back and wait because we want the Christmas gone.
So let me say this. Wouldn't then it? Because I mean, if he was to say that, right? And I guess they might be listening. They might use this, right? If he was to say that, you don't think he would get like a bunch of political points for saying that? Why wouldn't he say that? Why wouldn't he say, "Hey, this is why I'm doing it"?
No. He know his brain.
Yeah.
How his brain work.
Yeah.
And he know I could use that as an excuse not to rally the people. You know, to get on stage and rally your people like how Trump get his base.
Yeah.
The way Congress.
Yeah.
He can never do that. He can never speak to us without somebody write the script for him.
Yeah.
He can even meet the press.
He don't speak well on when you put him on the spotty.
Yeah.
Off the cuff.
Any fool comes with his mouth. I don't know what's wrong with him mentally, but he cannot do a closing sentence.
Well, it's just charisma.
Normal human being.
It's charisma.
I speak the truth.
Yeah.
I think that's by his excuse to get away with not having a real campaign, talking to the people, having a town hall meeting, asking what have you done as prime minister.
Yeah.
Like
that's why he hired the press liaison.
Yeah, but that one is worse. You can't get all reporter to do a PR work.
Y'all ain't easy now.
You have to get somebody like a Bush kind of woman now. What's the name? Jen Psaki?
Yeah.
She's educated. She's young. Her brain is thick.
You want to listen to her. You want to hear what she have to say.
Oh, yes, because her brain, you cannot get up.
Yeah.
Even like Bush may Trump at the woman. What's her name? He will make up an artificial fact.
Yeah.
Oh, her brain, you cannot jam her.
Yeah,
make up artificial facts on you.
Carly, you give me a good laugh.
No, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Minutes, because the job, him and Ingram was tight. Ingram gave him that job temporarily. Because every weekend, I see Minutes and Papa riding the car together. They ride around the place. Because he's not a politician. He thought it was an easy job. Papa can tell it is easy. Papa is alpha male. He can fire you or hire you, or whatever he does.
Yeah.
But the Minutes, I was to study. The first was conflict phobia.
Yeah.
Minister handles stress. He can't. You notice?
Well,
Every
let me tell you,
minister-
I do think he's a mastermind politically. He's found a way to stay within the fray politically, even before he became prime minister. When he and Loretta Butler Turner were at it, et cetera, et cetera. He's found a way. So I mean, there's something there. He's not an idiot. He's not. He's very brilliant.
He just remains silent.
Yeah, well, and that's part of his strategy. That's part of his strategy.
Remain silent.
He knows he's not an orator,
let-
so he just lets his
and let
actions speak louder than his words.
And let his people chop down the people before him.
Yeah,
What he did, he just remains silent.
yeah.
Then
Hey, I appreciate the call, man. I got some more callers I'm getting here and get some more things on
all
the
right,
table.
yes, you just pray for us.
Yeah. Thank you for your perspective, man. I won't play this. You got it? You got it? The one with Dr. Science? I just want people to hear it. You don't have that one? I have that one. Let me. I want people to hear it. All right? Because
with that type of efficacy, and so you wonder what else will it do?
That's it. But then, let me ask you, if you're just tuning in, Dr. Dwayne Sands joining us on the Hit Back with Nahaja Black Guardian 96.9 FM. That's the question that I have. What else will it do? However, what else will it do might be longer than 6 months to take to find out after you take it. It might be longer than a year. At what point, what else should we be waiting on from these vaccines? What other data is lacking from this?
Well, the thing that is lacking primarily is long-term safety data. And so, yes, they have demonstrated that in a couple of months, you don't drop dead from it. You get some flu-like symptoms that may be short-lived. But what happens 6 months down the road? Does it cause a problem with your bone marrow? Will it stimulate malignancies? Does it create other challenges in the body? Because now you are manipulating the genetics.
That's right.
You are manipulating the genetics. And so I have to be responsible in my discussion here. But every regulator around the world now has a very, very solemn and serious responsibility that regardless of the pressure from the politicians, that if you don't feel as a regulator that this is safe, that you would take it or give it to your mother or to your child, you have an obligation to mankind to say no.
Dr. Dwayne Sons, that was his perspective before the vaccine landed. It has since changed, and I'm not saying people's opinion or their viewpoint cannot change, so don't misrepresent what I'm saying. I'm just saying we ain't forget he say that. We ain't forget he say that. All right, and then you have these other scientists from the WHO. You have the other clip, right? You could just play it. We ain't gonna play all of it, but I want people to hear this. Is what the scientists of the WHO are saying. All right, go ahead, Brother Ali.
There's a lot of safety science that's needed. And without the good science, we can't have good communication. So although I'm talking about all these other contextual issues and communication issues, it absolutely needs the science as the backbone. You can't repurpose the same old science to make it sound better if you don't have the science that's relevant to the new problems. So we need much more investment in safety science.
I think we cannot overemphasize the fact that we really don't have very good safety monitoring systems in many countries, and this adds to the miscommunication and the misapprehensions because we're not able to give clear-cut answers when people ask questions about the deaths that have occurred due to particular vaccine, and this always gets blown up in the media. One should be able to give a very factual account of what exactly has happened and what the cause of deaths are. But in most cases, there's some obfuscation at that level, and therefore there's less and less trust then in the system.
So that's just a clip from 2019. This is right before we kind of knew what was going on with COVID. But that was the discussion that was being had around vaccines. All right? So, again, people have informed positions. I think your position should be informed. I think if you're not going to get vaccine, don't have your backside all over the place. You really need to just chill. You really do. You should isolate. As far as go to the food store, go to the gas station, go home. If you go to church or something like that, go for the prescribed amount of time, go home. I know I haven't seen some people personally from COVID started that I love and I miss. You understand? Because I understand the seriousness of the matter. All right? So just wanted to put that on the table. Let's get these calls in before we run out of time, and then we'll get some texts. Callers, you got to make it quick here on the Revolution 96.9 FM Guardian Radio, live at Kahuna and Kusara. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon. Is Uncle Sarah?
Yes, it is.
Hey, we're saying Trey.
Hey, you know me as Trey, so you know me long time.
Yeah, man, Trey, man. DJ Cat's playing domino inside the warehouse, man. You should know who this is now. Anyway,
yeah.
Trey, man, I really think this separation of people with the people who taking the vaccine and the people who ain't taking the vaccine, that ain't called for you.
No, I don't think so.
Because what they do when they separating people, man, that could cause mass confusion, man.
Yeah.
Mass confusion.
Yeah.
Not almost as bad as election time, but
Yes.
the election, man.
Yes, except because it's a longer amount of time you got.
Man, because like they say, this is an experimental drug.
Right.
The people who could take it, they don't know what's going to happen in a year's time. They don't know what could happen. They see them calling people stupid who don't want to take it and this, that, and the next thing. Who knows down the line if they be crippled or something, someone who ain't take the drug will all out, hey, look who's the stupid one now.
Yeah, and that's the reality.
I think everyone should just be cool about this. If you take it, take it. If you don't want to take it, you don't take it.
And I pray down the road that those who took it don't have any adverse effects. Like I say, my mother took it, so I ain't really on the side of anyone. I'm just saying, listen, let people make their decisions respectfully, and let's keep it moving. Don't come rolling up on me and ask me if I vaccine.
For real. My family take it, half didn't take it, but I don't judge them.
Right. I got family members who took it who telling me you need to go take it. And I say, well, you already took it, so ain't nothing I can say to you.
That's what I'm telling you. Anyway, so have a good day.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling, man. Let's see if we get one more call and get some text in. Caller, you are on the revolution.
What's up, brother?
Hey, man, what's up?
Call as well. So, did you take the vaccine yet?
No, I ain't take the vaccine. I just say people need to stop rolling up on people asking if they take it. Well, go ahead.
The reason why I asked that, I took it. And mind me, everybody that I talk to,
yeah,
I never, ever tell them go take it,
Right. And I don't tell people not to take it.
You know what I do?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what I do.
What you do?
When people ask me about the vaccine, I say, listen to me. From you're over 18, you have a choice.
You have a choice. That's correct.
All right? Even if you have a child in your, a sibling in your house and they're over 18, they have a choice.
That's correct.
But I'm not going to push and tell you take something.
Right.
And it reacts to your body differently, and it reacts to my body.
Exactly.
Then my family member tell me, oh, you tell me go take it.
Right.
See what happens?
And that's why I don't tell people not to take it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I after I was one of the most conspiracy theorists about this vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
But after me personally doing, not even listening to Dr. Fauci them to a point,
mm-hmm.
but after myself doing my research,
mm-hmm.
I decided to take it now. If God has something to happen to me
mm-hmm.
as a result of taking this,
right,
then my brother, that's such is life. Because you could leave out that studio today, jump in your car, and there's no guarantee that you make it back to your destination.
That's correct.
All right, so whether you take the vaccine or not,
yeah,
right?
The Most High got a plan. That's what you're saying.
You have a good
So
day,
let me.
brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate
Yes,
that perspective. Let me just say this. I don't think we have to dive into the realm of conspiracy theorists if we have an informed position. I just played for you scientists who had concerns. So are they conspiracy theorists? The people at the WHO, they are conspiracy theorists, you think? Let's get to some text. Someone talking about Dr. Sands and how many shots he done had since then. Well, like I say, people have a right to change their mind. So they're saying Dr. Sands, yeah, he's singing a different tune. And again, people have a right to change their mind. All right. I ain't really trying to get on Dr. Sands as much as I'm trying to show people that he, as an informed scientist, had his reservations. Right? He said what he had to say. And we ain't forget what he had to say. You understand what I'm saying? Let's see here. Let's just get, because we're almost out of time. Let's see here. So they say I didn't play the recently informed positions. I'd be happy to play it. I don't have those clips on me, but it's obvious what their position is. I've heard him say take the vaccine. That's not a secret. The point I'm making is we ain't forget he said what he already said. So obviously his position has changed. You understand? So when we talk about vaccine hesitancy, yeah, what has changed based on what he said in that clip in terms of long-term data on how this vaccine is going to affect you? What has changed since then? Nothing has changed because you still don't have the data. That's the point I'm making. All right. Let's see what else we got here as far as tax is concerned. Says you come across as promoting people to not get vaccinated. I mean, if that's how you feel that I'm coming across, I can't really change your position. But I just told you I don't tell people not to take the vaccine. I'm telling you what the scientists are saying. So if that makes you think, well, then maybe you have a reason to think what you're thinking. All right. Someone is asking me to explain what a conspiracy theory. I ain't got time to do that right now. Let's see here. All right. Someone says, obviously, since that tape, he did his own research and decided it was safe. Right. He decided it was safe for him. But listening to that, I don't know what changed as far as long-term data is concerned. That didn't change. He cannot do research on long-term data because it's still being compiled. All right. So I think someone says, ask about current treatments, ivermectin, anti-monoclonal treatments, remdesivir, etc. Please let us have this discussion on treatments for COVID. Why, please? None. And I agree, right? We didn't even get to natural immunity like I wanted to today. But there are some treatments. What happened? What was Cuba using when they went to Spain before there was a vaccine? Cuba went into Spain, and it seemed like they turned the COVID reality around in Spain, and they didn't have no vaccine. They do have a vaccine now in Cuba. I think it's 3 shots. You need 3 shots out of the gate for that particular vaccine. I'm just saying this is a fluid discussion. That's all I'm really saying. The idea that you can call somebody stupid for having an informed position, and for people who are trying to take care of their bodies and take care of their immune systems, the fact that we have so many people who've had COVID and didn't end up in the hospital, more people have had COVID and didn't end up in the hospital than actually were in the hospital. These are all things that are on the table. So again, if you want to take the vaccine, go and take the vaccine. I'm not saying don't take the vaccine. All right? And I'm not saying to take the vaccine. I'm saying I have my position, you have yours. Let's all stay healthy, because outside of the vaccine, guess what? If you fall out of the coconut tree, you're still in trouble, because there ain't no bad. My name is Kahun Ankusara. This has been The Revolution here on 96.9 Guardian Radio. We say namastu and have a great day.
The Revolution with Juan McCartney is sponsored by J.S. Johnson, Burger King, Commonwealth Bank, Boost Academy, Our X, Ron's Electric Motors, and Marco's Pizza.